But we don't have to panic about the COVID-19, and I think they wanted us to panic. And I'm asking people to use their intelligence and their mind. And I respect people who want to wear a mask and people who doesn't want to wear a mask. That must be their personal choice. We need to respect others, and respect is one of our principal founding principles: individual freedom, respect, and if we are Canadians, and we must be proud to be Canadians.
Ray. Oh, Mr. Bernier, how you doing there,
Long
sir?
time no see, yes.
Well, you never know who you're going to meet at a freedom rally, and we have the leader of the People's Party of Canada, Maxime Bernier. Mr. Bernier, I'd like you to weigh in on the government response to the Wuhan virus issue that we have in Canada. My boss, Ezra Levent, he had a very profound thing to say, which is that governments of every political stripe, of every level, municipal, provincial, federal, it's like they have gotten a little taste of totalitarian power, and they kind of like the taste.
First of all, I must admit that the second wave is here right now. We have a second wave, but it is more socialism in our country. That's the second wave. And, big government that spend money that we don't have. Trudeau is doing that with the help of the NDP, but also the Conservatives. They voted for Bill C-4 for more spending. And Aaron O'Toole was saying during the campaign for the leadership, his campaign, that is a real true blue conservative. But he was wearing a mask when he said that, and now he doesn't have any mask, and we see him actually is like a liberal light, and he said publicly that he wants to have more support from the Liberals. So you cannot expect anything different from the Conservatives. So I'm here today to fight for our freedom, because the wave of socialism is here in this country, and we need to fight against that. We have a debt, Suzanne right now. Suzanne, we have more spending. We have people that are losing their jobs. We are in a recession. More spending is not the solution. It is a sedative for the economy, and we just need to have our freedom back. That's why we are here today.
Mr. Bernier, what do you make of the mixed signals coming out of various politicians' mouths in terms of the virus? For example, we have mayors, we have premiers saying, don't celebrate Thanksgiving next weekend, that's too much of a health hazard. Yet the federal Liberals just eased border restrictions, so you could have someone fly in from Wuhan, China, no problem, not even a citizen or a landed immigrant, yet people here in the country are told, don't celebrate Thanksgiving with your loved ones. I don't get it.
I want people to be able to do what they want to do, but the most important right now concerning COVID-19 is the hospitalizations and the deaths. But, that's under control. And, one death is always too much. But actually, we need to look at this number. And the curve is flat right now. So, and the mainstream media is always speaking about the new cases. But the most important is right now, how many people do we have in our hospitals, and how many deaths do we have? And it's going down, so that's a good news, but it's always too much. But we don't have to panic about the COVID-19, and I think they wanted us to panic. And I'm asking people to use their intelligence and their mind, and I respect people who want to wear a mask and people who doesn't want to wear a mask. That must be their personal choice. We need to respect others, and respect is one of our principal founding principles: individual freedom, respect, and if we are Canadians, and we must be proud to be Canadians.
Mr. Bernier, I'm trying to understand the unspoken strategy when you look at certain elected officials, the mainstream media, to create this atmosphere of paranoia and fear when, as you said, if we know from doctors and nurses, the hospitals are more than half empty. They're not battle zones. We know that the human cost in terms of shutting down the economy, depression, spousal abuse, suicide rates, people dying on elective surgery lists, it would seem to me that the cure is worse than the curse. So why are we enduring? Like I said, what is the unspoken strategy behind the scenes to create this atmosphere of fear and paranoia?
Well, like I said in the beginning, I think it is more government and imposing socialism in our country, socialism in Canada. When you have the Conservatives who vote like the Liberals, we need to change that, and we are the only real alternative. That's why me and Baljeet, we will run in the by-election right now, one in Toronto Centre. Baljeet will be our candidate, and me in York Centre. But the most important, we must say to people, there's no splitting the vote for these two by-elections, because the government will be there after these two by-elections. It will be the Trudeau government. We won't change that. But that's a huge opportunity for people living in York Centre and Toronto Centre to vote for their values and to send a strong signal to the Liberals and the Conservatives that we're ready to gain back our personal freedom.
And Mr. Bernier, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you your opinion of the new leader of the Conservative Party, Mr. O'Toole. It seemed that he came out of the gates pretty strong, but then a lot of Conservatives were just shaking their heads in disbelief when he said that he would support the Paris Climate Change Accords. That seems completely against what Conservatives would want, that it's totally alienated so many people in the West. What do you make of that?
But, that's in line with his strategy. The goal of the Conservative is to be back in government. They don't have any principle, and they'll do everything. So they try to please the leftists right now by saying that. And it's not working for Western Canada, or it's not working for every Canadian, because we don't have to sign the Paris Accord, and he wants to follow the Paris Accord. So that means more taxes, more regulation, a big fat government, more interference in provincial jurisdiction, because the environment is a shared jurisdiction with provinces. So he's saying that he's understand the Western alienation, but on the other side, he's for the Paris Accord, and he won't have the courage to impose pipelines in this country. He did an interview with the Premier of Quebec and a meeting with him, and he said, Energy East pipeline, it's dead. It's dead because he doesn't have the courage to use the Constitution and to impose a pipeline, because it's important for the unity of our country, but also for the prosperity of our country. So what I'm telling you, he said, I will solve Western alienation, it's too important, but he's doing the opposite.
So I guess what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's almost as though Mr. O'Toole is taking his Conservative base out west for granted, and then in central Canada reaching out, becoming more liberal, and that kind of seems like a play out of the Andrew Scheer playbook, and we all know how that ended.
Yeah, and it's too bad. It's too bad they didn't learn. They used the strong Conservative base just during a leadership campaign, and he did a lot of promises to them during the leadership campaign, and now he's looking to be the prime minister, and he's a real leftist centrist party. It's too bad. It's too bad. That's why I'm saying to the real Conservative in this country, look at our platform, the PPC. We're there. We won't change. We won't change. We're doing politics based on principle, and what I'm saying, before the election, during an election, and after an election, it's the same thing. Go on our website, look at the People's Party of Canada.ca, you'll see our platform. But, that's the established political parties, and they don't have any real vision for our country.
And one last question, Mr. Bernier. How is this going to play out, this response to the Wuhan virus? When are things going to get back to the old normal? Or do you see more hardship ahead? There are various governments, various bureaucrats, various directors of health that want a complete shutdown of the economy again, to try to eliminate a death rate that is not that significant. I mean, this is not an outbreak of Ebola, for goodness sakes. How do you see this playing out, and how do you think people will react to the kind of shutdown of the economy we saw going back to March?
Yeah, I think the shutdown, a new shutdown won't solve anything. We are against that. But the most important, I believe in this country, there's a silent majority. And with protests like that and people being out there, we want to show Canadians, fight for your freedom. It's I don't want people to take for granted their freedom that they have right now. It's in danger with the Conservative, the NDP, the Liberals playing the same game and being all in the same boat of the socialist boat in this country. But at the end, I believe that the silent majority will realize and they will come a little bit more on our side and to challenge the status quo, the new status quo, that we don't like.
And one last thing, Mr. Bernier, by law, we are in violation of the new social gathering limits of 25 outdoors, meaning that all the protesters here stand to get a $880 fine. The organizers can be fined up to $100,000. Are you worried about a Toronto police officer coming up to you and slapping you with an $880 fine, sir?
I'm more worried about my freedom. That's the most important. That's why I'm here.
A pleasure as always. Thank you, Mr. Bernier.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hey folks, if you can, please go to journalistdefensefund.com. If you're able to, make a donation so that we can continue to bring you the other side of the story.